Hi everyone, welcome to Culture Talk, where we share insights and learnings from leaders in arts and culture. Today we have Craig Pride, founder and CEO of Different Breed, a ticketing platform that enables people with disabilities to self-serve and purchase tickets without any barriers. Craig is an award-winning software engineer who has faced challenges purchasing tickets before because traditional purchase flows don't accommodate for his needs living with a stammer. Now he's using his skills and experience to fill this gap in the accessibility journey. So, hi, Craig. Thanks for your time today. It's great to speak to you again. How's your day going?
Yeah, hi there. My day is generally going great. It has definitely been a bit of a busy one, but it's awesome to sit down and find some time to have a chat. How is your day going?
Yeah, going good. Thank you very much. I look forward to this chat. Yeah, hopefully we can slow the day down a bit for you and have
Yeah,
a nice chat today. So, yeah, lovely to speak to you. Can we start with just a bit about yourself and your background, and just tell us about your early experiences of culture while living with a stammer and how that led you to found Different Breed?
yeah, sure. So I've always struggled with speech. I grew up in a kind of rural part of Scotland, so I didn't know that I had a stammer until I was in my mid 20s when I ventured out into the big bad world as a and kind of started working. So the way how I talk is I use real time word swapping. It's a bit like kind of autocorrect in your phone. So as I talk, I feel a blocker coming on, and then I just swap a word in to hopefully fix it. One of the words I can't swap in is accessibility, and I can say it in the context of when I explain that I can't say accessibility, but when I need to actually say accessibility, that's definitely going to be a bit of a roller coaster for both of us. So yeah, and it's very ironic considering what I talk about. So yeah, so in terms of how stammering affects me, conversations are quite a struggle. I can't talk on the phone. So growing up in the kind of rural Scotland, I liked events and I liked going to events, but a lot of those events required you to book over the phone. So like local kind of box offices require phone calls. I can't do phone calls because I can't see how people react to the way I speak. I've got a hidden impairment, so which doesn't help when you are on a phone anyway because people can't see you. But it also kind of in person, people don't know that you stammer, and they like people tend to kind of uh, have either never heard of a stammer before, have never experienced it, or they don't really know how to handle it, type thing. So it kind of left me dependent on my family to book tickets for me, to phone GP appointments, all the kind of things like that growing up. So really, I kind of came to essentially spend a bit of time alone, growing up, and what I kind of lacked in spoken ability, I kind of got through problem solving. I really enjoyed playing with things like Lego and Kinects growing up, problem solving through video games, and that turned into a career in software engineering. I got quite good at software engineering, I like to think, not to be a bit big headed, but yeah, I think I've got a bit good at it
You
after
won an
kind of
award
10 to
for it,
15.
so
Yeah, after kind of 15 years doing that, I thought I would maybe be in a position of where I can say I'm okay at this now. Uh, yeah, so I got into software engineering. I worked for kind of large ticketing companies like ATG and Viva Tickets and contracts. I worked for After Digital, which is a part of kind of Culture Suite now, and really I became a bit of a kind of an accessibility advocate after seeing it in client audits. And generally, I quite enjoyed that kind of ability to create a front end experience, which is the customer facing UI, and build it in a way that someone who's normally overlooked can actually interact with it and kind of look through it. And I guess trying to build any kind of accessible experience is problem solving because you have to think of a way of using a website that isn't the way how you normally would kind of use a website. So I got really into kind of web accessibility, started learning that, and then just grew really frustrated with kind of larger ticketing companies who we were integrating with, selling AA levels of accessibility compliance when they're not even close. But the sales team seemed to be on a kind of forward process of going, we are accessible because it's in a client spec and they think they can get away with it. But I kind of spent years arguing with kind of like a account managers going, when is this being delivered? We were promised roadmap items which were never delivered. Yeah, a lot of the kind of systems which were available and still are available kind of just meet minimum standards. And I guess that kind of personal aspect of being locked out of those systems myself, and being a kind of solution focused person, I was like, well, let's go off and try and solve that. So I founded Different Breed before the first pandemic, a great time to start an events company, I have to admit. Uh, and then I spent kind of 4.5 years building a ticketing platform with the disabled individuals at its focus. So we built from the customer side and the event organizer side at the same time. We originally started off by just selfishly wanting to solve it so we didn't need to use phone lines for myself. And then as we built it out and connected with more disabled individuals, we realized that we have a real kind of opportunity here, and we've effectively started solving a lot of the accessibility issues faced by events online. So that's a long-winded way of answering that kind of question. So there you go.
I know it's a interesting journey, and yeah, certainly we'll be talking more about Different Breed and the ambitions a bit later. But obviously, Different Breed is kind of focusing arts and culture, and many people have a deep emotional affinity with arts and culture. You said before in previous conversations that music was your escape. Can you tell us a bit about what arts and culture means to you and how it's impacted your life?
Yeah, definitely. So, kind of growing up and having some form of kind of disability, I spent kind of a lot of time alone, suffered with a bit of kind of depression and anxiety for a long time, which are also hidden conditions. I kind of won a jackpot when it came to hidden disabilities, I think, when I was younger. Uh, and music was always a kind of escape for me. And that's kind of growing up in a small town didn't help with kind of social connections, because when you grow up in a small town, there's a lot of people know each other. So I didn't actually know that I stammered until I went out to actually work, because I just thought I spoke a bit different. But what I kind of found solace in was the fact that, like, I could connect with artists easier than I could connect with people. I grew up listening to kind of a lot of kind of rap, a lot of kind of rock, and a lot of kind of artists like that. And then really kind of got into seeing music as a kind of a unique connection point, in a sense, because music has an ability to bring people together regardless of their background, their conditions. And this is why I really like working with festivals, because you can see this in crowds. It's like different cultures, the flags and communities come together, and there's a kind of sense of belonging to something bigger than yourself. And that, I guess, falls into the kind of power of accessibility within music. And that's the fact that music is an inclusive medium, and that feeling is very much amplified at live events. And I guess that also ties back into why I love what we do at Different Breed, because it's letting more people experience that kind of lifeline, which I relied on a lot growing up.
Yeah, it's a common theme in these culture talk chats I have with people about how culture kind of brings people together, and it is exactly why like accessibility is so important, because like leaving anyone behind is um, just devastating, really. What are some of the unique challenges people with hidden disabilities face when attending events, and how does this differ from people with more visible disabilities?
Yeah, that is a great question, first of all. So, hidden disabilities comes with a really kind of obvious upfront challenge, and that is that they are hidden. So, a lot of the kind of different parts of the experience that kind of most people don't think about becomes a bit of a challenge when you have a hidden disability. And that can be anything from people with anxiety who are concerned about being crushed in a queue as it gets closer to getting into the event kind of doors and gates, or even someone with a kind of vision impairment being handled, kind of handed a color coded wristband for a, a, a kind of festival, and the fact that they can't understand what those colors are because they can't see them, or even someone who's blind being handed color coded wristbands, which is meant to represent different days. Uh, and I think that there's a kind of lack of awareness when it comes to hidden disabilities. A lot of the arts and culture sector focus on kind of the disabled individuals in wheelchairs, the disabled individuals who require companions, and the disabled individuals who require assistance animals. Then everything else is a bit more kind of difficult because you can't instantly see someone's disability, so you have to kind of approach conversations in a way of where, well, nobody has bad intentions, but we all expect others to experience the world in the kind of same way we do. And we don't naturally think outside of our kind of own perspectives when it comes to that. And I guess that's where the challenges arise for people with hidden disabilities, is that people don't know how to respond or accommodate them because they don't see them up front. That's where I think that there is solutions now coming about, and there's the reality of where in a kind of ideal world we don't want to like have a need for people to tell you about their disabilities, but things like kind of a sunflower lanyard or access cards are making a real impact in this space because it lets people identify hidden conditions up front, and then they can kind of mentally adapt into how they should communicate with someone. And that's also making training a lot easier for venues because now we can understand people's conditions for their own experiences, and we can figure out how we should communicate and how we can adapt our experiences for them. So I think there's definitely hope, but I would say there's definitely a challenge there as well in terms of having a hidden disability and how that affects things.
Yeah, very much progress has been made, but more to be done, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
I mean, accessibility is widely talked about in the sector. I think it's fair to say that arts and culture thinks about accessibility perhaps more than any other sector. But it's often split into two domains, that's digital accessibility and in-venue accessibility. But then there's this whole middle section that we've been talking about today that gets less attention, the ticketing journey. Why does the work that most people do when they look at their digital accessibility not translate into better accessibility during the ticket purchase flow?
Yeah, definitely. I think as a general kind of like industry, we focus on a lot of the big changes which require a lot of investment. So the things like having to develop a new website to be accessible, or having to change aspects of our experience to enable them to be accessible, and we put up our own barriers in a sense because we are focusing on the large changes. But even when we do achieve those large kind of like changes, a lot of us don't include disabled audiences in the planning of it. So we are effectively, not in a kind of bad intention way, we are making decisions for the people who we wish to serve without actually including the people who we wish to serve in that kind of front. And I think that's when it comes to like planning out a new website. I've seen it time and time again for my own career. People put in accessibility in their briefs, but how many of them actually test it when it's delivered? Like, how many people have someone with an impairment on their team that can verify that it's been tested? You're kind of putting the accessibility and trusting someone else to handle it, and kind of at times that trust is on an assumption. And I think that kind of assumption is the part where we are kind of missing parts of the puzzle pieces to be able to get a proper kind of solution in place. I say one of the biggest gaps in accessibility is that many people don't see their own experiences through the eyes of the people with disabilities. Like, we focus a lot on customer journey mapping. We usually focus 90% of our customer journeys on people without impairments, and then we bolt on the people with impairments afterwards in a lot of experiences. And that leads to things like the accessible information on pages being buried in a link within a footer or a link within a menu. It's never brought into the event information. And even when you do hit any kind of accessible information, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a PDF download with a wall of text, or a web page with a wall of text that isn't optimized for people with disabilities. It's just a one solution kind of fix for everyone. And I guess that's where accessibility within our industries became a bit of a ticking a box for compliance approach rather than creating a kind of usable experience. But I do think that's where we have a a huge opportunity to make a real impact in digital accessibility. And that's kind of changing our thought processes, our thought processes away from our kind of flashy on brand websites into creating value for a full audience. And I think until we start designing experiences and including disabled individuals up front and actually understanding the barriers they face, the changes that we do make are going to fall short in the kind of bigger picture of things.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think, as you say, I think people don't have bad intentions, and everyone wants to be more accommodating to those
Yeah.
living with disabilities. And there are even grants to support venues implementing new accessibility provisions. But why is there this wider issue in the events industry when it comes to accessibility, especially for people with hidden disabilities?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest reasons I genuinely believe is that I think it's that a lot of the solutions providers which we use push the responsibility of accessibility purely onto the venues rather than offering built in solutions that can help them understand their audience from a disabilities perspective. And with having that as a kind of accepted standard across our industry, every event and venue handles accessibility differently. Eligibility varies per event, and really our kind of short-sighted focus on our per event and what's good for us has meant that as a disabled individual, when I want to go to an event, there could be 5 theatres on one street and I've got 5 separate kind of individual access flows to go through. I had to send them different medical documents, private kind of information. There's a whole separate talk around how we've kind of normalized giving strangers private medical information, which I think is a bit wild when you can actually step back and look at it and go, like, why is that a thing? But I think generally that ticketing platforms and solution providers should be building these tools that enable venues to be informed about the individual needs of their attendees, and that's what we essentially specialize in at Different Breed. And I think that's the important part because these providers have the power to create industry wide standards. They can create massive change very quickly. But I think instead of seeing that, we've seen too much focus on making noise rather than kind of bringing real practical solutions. And I think also going back to the actual disabled individuals themselves, I think there's a lack of people with disabilities in the teams that build these experiences. So you don't really see any kind of real world barriers and they are kind of like systems which are being created until it's kind of too late and it's in the hands of the customer. So I think until we shift focus back to our kind of customers, and particularly our and particularly to the disabled customer, we're not going to solve any of the kind of underlying problems. And I guess that's where our approach at kind of Different Breeds is different, and it's the fact that we've shown that you can handle disabled ticketing online and within a self-service model. It does work and it is possible, and it's not complex either. And we've only been able to achieve that through leading from lived experience. And I think until mainstream providers start to take accessibility more seriously and start addressing the kind of root issues, we won't see the necessary change in our industry to make it better.
Yeah. And when we've spoken previously, you've also mentioned that there's often a focus on big changes, but that they can sometimes overshadow small changes that can make a big difference. Can you elaborate on what small changes are often overlooked and how they can improve accessibility?
Yeah, sure. I think like one of the kind of first things, and what I think is a bit of a kind of thing, and what people need to start chatting about more is that I think a lot of the kind of large organizations and disability focused charities in the event space started with really good intentions, and they generally have good intentions. I think over time they've become a bit more focused on creating standards and then monetizing consultancy solutions to be able to solve it than actually providing the solutions up front for people to implement. And that's kind of turned any form of accessibility within our space into a box ticking exercise. And we've kind of lost sight of what really matters most, and that's the customer's experience. And I guess while we often talk about a lot of the big changes, like raised platforms and accessible areas, the actual digital ticket booking experience doesn't get talked about a lot. And it's the small changes that we can make right now that cost us basically nothing, that can have immediate and lasting impact. And a really good example of that is things like wristbands at festivals that rely on color. You can put raised shapes on that and use that as a separate kind of communication method. And there's a whole really good kind of subject area around using color as a touch point, which I won't go into, or we will be here for years. But essentially, understanding how people interact with your experiences, and then we also need, like, as a kind of industry, we need someone going, this is the way how you should do it, and here's the tools to do it. And we need to be able to have someone deliver those tools to make the change. So I guess that's kind of where we are a bit different in terms of what Different Breed stands for. And that's, like, I'm not an advocate in the traditional sense. I'm a disabled individual who's missed out, who wants to try and provide solutions so I can be included, and so other people like me can be included. And I think that's what we've been lacking in the space, is really people coming forward and going, this is how it should be done, and here's the tool which will enable you to essentially have it done for you. Uh, and then that's when other providers can copy the examples which are being set, which work, and we can work as a combined force between venues and providers to actually implement those changes which will make a difference. And I think there's kind of like, coming back into kind of overlooking small solutions, we do often overlook a lot of the basics as well, especially when it comes to accessibility information or offering fast track entry so people can avoid queues. They're really easy to implement, they're low cost. And even things like sensory packs, so that kind of neurodiverse attendees can enjoy events more fully. And most importantly, we need to ensure that people can book tickets online, or any accessibility improvements you make at the venue is kind of pointless because the people can't get the tickets to actually be able to experience it in the kind of wider picture. And yeah, and I guess that, to kind of summarize that entire kind of ramble, I think it's generally that our industry's focus on large visible changes has overshadowed the small practical improvements that could make the biggest difference right now. And they're often easier to implement and could immediately improve accessibility for many attendees.
Yeah. What's the long-term ambition and vision for Different Breed, and how do you hope to continue to influence changes in the events industry?
Yeah. So the primary focus of Different Breeds is, we believe very much in driving advocacy for practical solutions. So we know that the events industry has awesome charities like Attitude is Everything, and their yearly reports are great. And we want to take what's inside those yearly reports and listen to essentially venues and festivals and those customers, and come up with solutions that can be used today, rather than kind of like something and what needs to get added to our roadmap. So we've already launched a solution to ticketing and add-ons, which can be used today. It's completely free to set up and use. We charge a small service fee when you sell, and that can run alongside any kind of other ticketing platform with a reserved allocation. And we're also going to be launching things like audience profiling tools to help you collect more detailed insights into your disabled attendees who are coming, and an accessibility guides product to break down that kind of initial barrier and make offering accessible information easier and more personal for venues. We've built a really strong board of industry experts so far, and I have to credit them because we wouldn't be where we are without them. My skill set is very much tech, and their skill set enables me to have a more rounded kind of approach because I can apply the solutions to the problems that they have. And then we also have a lived experience board now that we can rely on to bring the customer's perspective into every conversation. And effectively, what our long-term vision for Different Breed is by the end of 2025. So our long-term vision isn't very long, I would say. Like, we are focused on delivering now, delivering fast as a startup. So our kind of long-term vision right now is by the end of 2025, we want to launch a UK-wide platform that can be used by disabled individuals to get personalised recommendations of events that they can attend within, say, X miles of their location, and use the information which we know up front from services like Access Card and our own Access Passports, which is a way to create personalised disability experiences, to be able to know that up front and be able to connect the disabled individuals with the events. And all of our solutions, which we do create, is becoming part of this really nice ecosystem and kind of suite of tools which help venues very much offer personalized and accessible experiences while also giving the attendees the independence and ease of being able to self-serve and book their and basically be in control of their own experiences. The very, very long-term approach and what we are trying to figure out how to do is we want to make accessibility affordable for event organizers. We aren't here to make billions in profits. We're here to bring change. And what we want to do is we want to very much enable venues and different kinds of live music events to unlock new audiences and get more revenue in, while also making the experience streamlined and better for the customer. And I think that's kind of a win-win for both people. And the other kind of thing I would say is that like the future of accessibility is now. So we are focused on solutions that make a difference today. We haven't really looked much into AI. We have plans for AI, but we think that we need to solve the human connection before we start bringing machines into it, is the way how I would kind of phrase that. And we're also focused on not having a long product roadmap, because disabled individuals fundamentally deserve better now. And we're here to deliver it. So I guess our platform, as I said, is free to use, and all the future products will start off with a free tier and have affordable upgrades. So with our guides, your guides will be free to use. If you want to brand them, small cost per month helps with offsetting the development costs. And I guess as a kind of closing note in that, we are confident no one else is offering what we do. We are bringing a fresh perspective and practical solutions that can transform how your events approach accessibility. So come and talk to us. I guarantee that you've never seen anything like what we offer before.
Yeah, I mean, there's some really exciting stuff there. I think kind of like directory for people living with disabilities as such, kind of local events is great. I think it's also, I also want to make clear, I think it's fantastic that different breed solution works alongside existing ticketing providers. So, I think a lot of people are kind of worried about kind of bringing on a different system, how it's going to be implemented.
Yeah.
I think the ease of that, I think, is super, super appealing
Yeah,
to venues.
we are we are very much aware that like people have processes and people love those existing systems. A lot of those existing systems work really well and they have features which are amazing. So what we have very much focused on with Different Breed is creating something that runs independently alongside your existing system. We know those existing systems are great. We don't want to force you to change provider just to be able to cater to additional audience members. So we focused very much in creating an ecosystem that can be used in parts. You have full control over where you want to use our system. So we do tickets, we do add-ons, we do guides, we do profiling. So you're then able to go in and essentially bring us in at whichever points make sense for you right now. And that could be during the after sales experience. So everyone books for your primary system, and then you use us just for add ons and stock, which could be accessible glamping, disabled parking pass allocation, sensory packs, quick access lanes, tactile maps. You can essentially use us where it makes sense for you right now, but we also become part of a wider solution, which is better for everyone when it's kind of implemented. So we create a great standalone experience that's really amazing when it's used together. And I usually describe that as we essentially provide Lego bricks and you can build anything with it. But then to have an amazing accessible experience, we also provide the Lego brick house. And you're able to just use that up front and use it for everything. And I guess that's what's great about building an ecosystem over a singular solution which has to be used together, is that we've got flexibility to chop and change. But usually what people use us for is the accessible ticketing and disabled sales only. And then we do the add-ons and everything together in one journey. And then we do digital tickets and everything that are accessible, which is quite exciting as well. So,
Yeah, so it's super versatile and flexible. So I don't like to sound sensationalist, but there really is no excuse for people not to at least inquire and find out
yeah.
more. What's one thing you wish venues and cultural organizations would understand or adopt so that they can better serve people with disabilities more effectively?
Yeah, definitely. The one thing I wish every venue would adopt is lived experience. And there's communities of disabled individuals who know firsthand challenges that events create. There's communities on Reddit. There's communities in Discord servers of people who are trying to get into the event space and work for events that kind of bring a very unique perspective into your team. And by hiring people like this, we can effectively bring accessibility into every meeting. We will stop looking at kind of like different kinds of accessibility as a compliance checkbox, because we have a human representation and a lived experience perspective there to tell us why something is better. And I think that instead of being kind of like focused on like trying to improve accessibility without us, it's a lot better if you include us, and it can be a lot faster and a lot cheaper as well, because you won't be spending money on consultants to tell you what a disabled individual can tell you in a 15-minute call type thing. And I think making it human as well. To improve accessibility, we need to start by making it human, and that's when you include people with lived experiences in those processes. The entire approach towards accessibility becomes human. It becomes adapting it to our customers' needs, and that's when we'll truly solve problems and create experiences that are inclusive to everyone. And yeah, that's my monologue, I guess, in terms of why on how people should approach this.
No, I mean, I think it's a great final message and extremely pertinent message to end on. We need to seek guidance from people who have lived experiences of access challenges, and yeah, I think inclusivity in general in that aspect is absolutely essential. Well, thanks for your time today, Craig. I really appreciate you coming on to talk about your experiences and to share the fantastic work being done by Different Breed. Hopefully, we've highlighted the importance of accessibility, not that our sector needs to know more, but the accessibility, especially during the ticket purchase flow anyway. Different Breed solution works with general admission event and can run with reserved allocation alongside the existing providers and create a great experience for disabled attendees without the need to change your existing systems. What's the best way for people to reach out to you or Different Breed?
And I'd say the absolute best way is to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm very, very active there. But if not, send us a kind of website, a contact form, or pop me an email at craig at differentbreed.events. That's the kind of best ways to reach me.
All right, brilliant. Well, perhaps we'll get to speak again in future with other accessibility businesses to talk about the full accessibility journey from kind of landing on a website all the way to purchasing a ticket, all the way to attending a performance. I think there's a great journey there, about kind of full journey from digital to in venue. But until then, thanks for your time and take care.
Yep, cheers, Matt. Have a good one. It was good
Thank
chat.
you. Bye.